حسين الغريب الغريب الحسين شهيد الشهيد الشهيد الحسين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أرسلناك بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا ولا تسأل عن أصحاب الجحيم. ولن ترضى عنك اليهود ولا النصارى حتى تتبع ملتهم. قل إن هدى الله هو الهدى ولئن اتبعت أهواءهم بعد الذي جاءك من العلم ما لك من الله من ولي ولا نصير. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته أولئك يؤمنون به ومن يكفر به فأولئك هم الخاسرون. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأني فضلتكم على العالمين. واتقوا يوما لا تجزي نفس عن نفس شيئا ولا يقبل منها عدل ولا تنفعها شفاعة ولا هم ينصرون. وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين. وإذ جعلنا البيت مثابة للناس وأمنا واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى وعهدنا إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل أن طهر بيتي للطائفين والعاكفين والركع السجود. وإذ قال إبراهيم رب اجعل هذا بلدا آمنا وارزق أهله من الثمرات ما آمن منهم بالله واليوم الآخر قال ومن كفر فأمتعه قليلا ثم أضطره إلى عذاب النار وبئس المصير. وإذ يرفع إبراهيم القواعد من البيت وإسماعيل ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. ربنا واجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك وأرنا مناسكنا وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا وابعث فيهم رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياتك ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة ويزكيهم إنك أنت العزيز الحكيم. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
إذا شئت النجاة فزر حسينا لكي تلقى الإله قرير عيني، فإن النار ليس تمس جسما عليه غبار زوار الحسين. أزور سيدي ومولاي ومعتمدي ورجاي في آخرتي ودنياي. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله، السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتون. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك، عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم، ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة، ولعن الله ابن مرجانة، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمراه، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم، وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياءكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم، وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب، وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سلمكم، وحرب لمن حاربكم، وولي لمن والاكم، وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة، وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاركم مع إمام هدى ناطق ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه محمد نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم وآله السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني وابدأ به أولا ثم لعن الثانية والثالثة والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمران وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين لاستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال. نهدي ثواب المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
I think she أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Imam Hussein Islamic Center, and as always it is our privilege, honor and pleasure to host you here, unfortunately once again virtually, but there is a roadmap, and one day soon in the future, possibly this month, possibly next month, possibly the month after. Who knows, really, at this stage, with all the changes that are taking place today, what will actually happen. But one day we will be able to see each other face to face and enjoy each other's company in person, inshallah. Thank you very much for joining us. And this evening we have a discussion about relationships, part one. Inshallah, we'll have part two next week, and depending on how it goes, we might go to part three, because right now relationships are really important. Relationships, interpersonal relationships, your relationship with yourself, relationships, your relationship or my relationship with God, with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and so many other types of relationships as well. Inshallah, we'll go through all of that in some detail, and have a chance to discuss all of these points. A reminder to everybody who's watching, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube. If you have any questions, if you have any comments that you'd like to share, if you would like to know something in particular, please feel free to message on Facebook or on YouTube, or even on the IHIC WhatsApp, if you have that number. Sorry, I would give it to you, but I don't have it offhand. Please share your thoughts, share your comments, and inshallah we'll be able to discuss those as well. Already we have now passed most of the mourning season. Muharram is well and truly past. We've this week only crossed Arba'een, and next week on Tuesday and Wednesday evenings we will be commemorating two very major occasions, or three very major occasions. On Tuesday evening, inshallah, you'll join us for the Majlis for the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Imam Hassan alayhi salam for their demise. And on Wednesday night, we have a Majlis commemorating the Shahadat of Imam Rida alayhi salam. So inshallah, keep that in your diary. If the information isn't out already, it will be out very soon. But we'd appreciate if you join us online. If not us, then inshallah you find any other program that you'd really like to be a part of. With that, inshallah, I welcome our dear brother and esteemed scholar, Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Always great to have you. We missed you last week.
Alhamdulillah, yeah, likewise.
Although you said a worthy ambassador.
I think I'm the ambassador.
No, it was really terrific to have Sheikh Ali Mehdi last week and for the last couple of programs, but it is fantastic to have you back.
Thank you very much, Hajj. I'm glad to be back.
Thank you, Sheikh. Sheikh, where do we start with relationships? What do we, when we talk about relationships, I do have a quote here from the late marhum Ayatollah Hassanzadeh, where he says, all you need to do are two: glorification of Allah and compassion to His creation. And just on that note, Sheikh, if we can deviate slightly, if I can request that with the salawat, we recite Fatiha for Ayatollah Hassanzadeh and all of our marhumin. May they all have the mercy of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Oh, sallallahu alayhi.
Sheikh, if I can get us started with this following question, considering the vast variety of relationships that exist within humankind and human relations, is there one key to a successful relationship, or a different approach or key to every type of relationship?
Well, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين with any relationship, we can begin at any point and discuss the way that each different relationship can be dealt with depending on who is dealing with who, the individual and who the person that is that they're dealing with. But one guideline that I should live by is that I should do unto others as that I want people to do unto me. Do unto others, you may have others do unto you. This is a prophetic message. The prophets all mentioned that if you want to use a guideline, imagine it was done to you. How would you want to be dealt with? That's the way you'd work with every single relationship. When I read Dua Abi Hamza Thamali, I say, Ilahi, la tu'addibni bi'uqubatik. Oh Allah, do not nurture me or do not raise me or do not educate me by punishing me. Why is it when I want to deal with other people, I have zero tolerance? This is the first thing. Any relationship begins with looking at myself.
Yeah.
If I'm a father, how do I want to be dealt with? That's how I deal with my father. If I'm a son, how do I want to be dealt with? If I'm a mother, if I'm a daughter, if I'm a boss, if I'm an employee, if I'm a servant, whatever I am, whatever the relationship is with whatever individual, that's the first step we look.
Sheikh, you said, sorry, you mentioned servant. Isn't there a narration of Imam Sadiq where his servant did something, or there was some negligent act by his servant, and yet there was a really magnanimous gesture by Imam Sadiq? I don't remember the details.
There is, this incident happened with multiple Imams, different stories.
Right.
Where you could begin with Sayyid al-Muwahidin, Sayyid al-Wasiyin, the Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, where he calls his servant 3 times. And then he goes to look for his servant. And he said, do you not hear me calling you? And he said, yes. And then he said, then why do you not answer me? He said, because I don't fear your punishment. I don't fear retribution.
Wow.
So the Imam falls on his face in prostration. He says, oh Allah, I thank you that even my servant doesn't fear my retribution.
Wow, subhanAllah.
So that's one thing to look at, because they're obviously our guidelines, to be in that position. Taban, this is with regard to the Imam's not looking to see there's different reactions to different situations. It's not a general. This is where you mention, is there one key? Firstly, we come to, how do I want to be treated with? I want to be treated with kindness.
Yes, of course.
I want people to be polite and nice to me, so I've got to be kind and polite. But there's a difference with being polite and being pliant.
Yes.
There's a difference between being kind and being servile. There's a difference. For example, when I'm being polite with somebody, it's because I wish to extract goodness from them. Not to justify the evil that comes from them. For example, when I want to be nice to people, it's to encourage them to do good. Take a look at when a tyrant does something. What makes a tyrant a tyrant? No one stands against them. When they want to do something, they implement a law, or they bring in a law. For example, if you notice, the world banks all go through what? The United States. No one says anything. Why do they do it? Because no one's going to answer and say anything. Everyone just is subservient. Let's work this way. Let's just move in this manner. And people just agree to it. And no one says, hold on, we're doing something wrong. So everyone becomes pliant. Everyone just does what they're told in order to appease the master. And this is why Imam Hassan was killed. Because everyone just wanted to do what the Amir wanted.
Yeah.
So that's what makes a dictator become a dictator and a tyrant become a tyrant. However, there's where we have to draw the line there first. That I'm not polite from someone where I'm encouraging them to do wrong. I'm polite with people and kind to people to encourage them to do right.
Yeah.
But if I see that this person does not work like this, there are different methods with everyone. However, we're first introduced to the method of being nice and polite in life with one of the first stories that we were told about, I was told about when I was a child, was we were always let know, if someone hits you, hit them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Tit for
من
tat.
اعتدى عليكم فاعتدوا عليه بمثل ما اعتدى عليكم.
Yep.
We weren't told like today, let them hit you and just let it go.
Yeah.
Which I fully don't condone whatsoever.
Yeah.
Islam is all about defending yourself. See, because you can see what's happening to the Muslims in the world today.
Yeah.
That because they cower, their leaders anyway, the ones that are in political positions, don't open their mouths. Look what's happening to the Muslims. The police are heavy-handed with them.
Yeah.
And there's no respect because they're not respecting themselves. However, من اعتدى عليكم فاعتدوا عليه بمثل ما اعتدى عليكم, the Quran says. Like what they do to you, do to them. However, an incident takes place where Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is seated with his companions. There's a group of companions, they're sitting with him, and a woman walks past. And some of them begin to look at her with their peripheral vision.
Yeah.
And then the Imam says that if you desire a woman, then go home to your wife.
Yeah.
Because this is a woman and the other one's a woman.
Yeah.
So he says that to them. A Khariji walking past hears this. And he says, قاتله الله كافرا ما أفقهه. May Allah kill this unbeliever. قاتله الله. May Allah fight him, in other words. This unbeliever, how intelligent he is. Because he calls Imam Ali an unbeliever. So the companions grab their swords and they get up to deal with him. The Imam says, Ruwaida, settle down. And then he mentions this. He says, إنما هو سب بسب. He abused me. I have the opportunity to say, no, you are the kafir. He calls me, I can say to him, you're a kafir.
Yeah.
And then he says, أو عفو. He says, أو عفو عن ذنب. Or I can overlook what he did. This is where we are introduced to something different.
Yeah.
And where in some instances, it's not to retaliate. Some instances, you are meant to turn the other cheek per se. Not always.
Yeah.
In some instances, that's what you're supposed to do.
There has to be a purpose behind it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So whether it changes the way this guy is going to be or not is not the issue. The issue might affect the people around.
Yeah.
So in the case of Imam Hassan alayhi salam with the Shami, the man from Damascus, the Imam speaking politely to him turned the person back to faith.
Yes.
Whereas in some cases it won't. In some cases they will continue in the way that they are. But there's a reason why we have to do this. Begin with our relationships. It's ilqa al-hujjah, at-tamma. It's for me to put the complete argument and proof upon them. So Allah says to the Quran, in the Quran to His Prophet, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانْفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. If you were rough, you were hard-hearted when you spoke to them, they would have dispersed from around you. No one would listen to you.
Exactly.
So this method of dealing with people, it's about being nice, it's about being courteous, it's about being polite. And this is in order for everyone to have a hujjah. Everyone has to have an argument upon them. See, this lets you know that there are people that hate Islam because the only form of Islam they have seen is Daesh, ISIS.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they don't understand Islam any better. See, that's why God says in the Quran, لِيَهْلِكَ مَنْ هَلَكَ عَنْ بَيِّنَةٍ. So whoever is to be punished or to perish, they perish by clear proof. And the only way the clear proof comes in is what? In the correct way. So this is your begin. Don't forget, you mentioned the word ambassador, you're an ambassador of Islam.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, you're always, when people say, I hate when they stereotype me. I'm happy that they call me a Muslim. I want to be a Muslim, and I want to become like a Muslim.
Yeah.
And I won't go a step further and say I'm a Shia. I wish I'm a Shia.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be called a Muslim, to be in the realms of Islam. That's good enough. For me to reach the other level, God knows if God will ever accept me on this level. And it's as like Sheikh Wahid al-Khurasani used to say, and this is something honestly that basically blows the tires on the car.
Yeah.
He used to say that he told them, I'm not a Shia.
Yeah.
None of you are Shia. And he said, from Sheikh Mufid to now there isn't a Shia.
Yep.
Just to let you know what, because when Allah speaks about the Shia of Ali, He says in the Quran, He says, وَإِنَّ مِن شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيم. Ibrahim al-Khalil is of the Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Just to tell you the status of who they are. These are people on a whole other level, but this is the way we are ambassadors of Islam. So then the second part of the question that you mentioned, is there different keys to people? Firstly, how do I deal with people in general to avoid conflict and to have good relations? Because remember, this is paramount for all your relationships. Two primary points. One we have is where we pretend we don't hear. Another is we pretend we don't understand.
Right.
So we have what's called taghafal. One is a story on Imam Ali ibn al-Hussein, Zain al-Abidin, where a man is cursing him and abusing him, and the Imam's sitting down in a way that he can't hear the man. So the man comes in front of him, points at him and says, Iyaka ani, talking to you. And the Imam, upon hearing this, he says, Wa anka ughdi, and I'm turning away from you. In other words, I'm disregarding what you're saying.
I'm ignoring you
I don't
completely,
want this.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for this problem. So don't bring it towards me.
It also delegitimizes what the man is trying to do.
I act as if he wasn't speaking to you. The second thing I say is pretend you don't understand. Sometimes people say something, you're hearing them loud and clear, you fully understand, but you act like you don't understand because you want to avoid. He doesn't lose face. Because he's abused you. He doesn't lose face in people. People say, all right, but you don't lose face either because you didn't understand him. So you've resolved the problem. You know what I mean? It's very hard. It's not easy because our natural reaction to a thing is we're very primal with these things. We
want to seek meaning in everything.
And to resort to violence is always easier than everything.
Oh, very much so.
It's the easiest thing to do is resort to violence. Okay. Now, so what are the different keys with people? So you have children, you'll understand this. Each kid's different. There are kids that work with a good word. Generally, it's the first thing you use. You always are polite when you speak, because you like people to speak to you by good. Why is it good to ask someone for their name? Why is it good for me to say, what's your name? And then you say, my name is Ali. And I say, my name's Muhammad. Because when you talk to someone, when you address them by their name, they feel good.
They feel good,
And that's why it's not good to give a nickname. Generally, we like to give people nicknames. It's an Aussie culture, I think. Even the Lebanese have it as a culture as well. That they like to give people nicknames. But if the nickname's a good nickname, like for example, if you say, for example, to someone, Anta Abu Taqwa, you are the father of piety. It's a good thing. But if you go...
It's a big thing to live up to too. It's a big thing to live up to.
But if someone gives you a good name like that, or if they call you Abu al-Hadid, this person's strong. It's a nice, it gives you... But if someone gives you a name that's demeaning, it's bad. And that's why we, at a young age, we call our kids Abu Ali, Abu Hassan, Abu Hussein, to give them that respect from the very beginning. So to hear your name encourages you, makes you feel good. And you catch more flies with honey. So the better way to attract people is with a good word. Now, some people, it might work with money. Some people if you give them money, they're doing good. Like if you tell your child, or a gift, whoever prays is going to get this gift, they start praying. That's why they work.
And different things work for different kids.
And different kid works different. Different people work different ways. And there were people that were given money. And even in the Quran it says, وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُم, the ones that their hearts are leaning towards faith, to help them pushed them over the line. Another one, it might be clemency. You know, sometimes when the Prophet forgave some people, that they turned towards Islam. They saw the Prophet overlook things. Like one of the biggest merchants in Arabia who had declared, if I see the Prophet, I will kill the Prophet. So the Prophet is one, I think, 4 or 5 people in history that the Prophet gave a green light for anyone to kill them if they see them.
Right.
He was one of them.
Right.
So he says, if you see this man, you kill him. You don't come back to the Prophet.
Yeah.
Now, the people obviously that caught him were the hypocrites. So they brought him to the Prophet to gain favor from the merchant.
Right.
Like, we let you live, but we brought you to the Prophet, so we still gave favor to them. And the Prophet said, do you know who this man is? They said, yes. He said, did you know that I have given an order on this man? They said, yes. And then they said, so should we kill him? He said, he's in front of me now.
He has no alternative but to be merciful to him.
So then he keeps him in the mosque. There's a room outside the masjid, and he stays in that room. And then every day the Prophet says, am I secure from you? And the man says, I will kill you the moment I'm free. So on the 3rd day, the Prophet asks him, am I secure? And the man says the same thing, I will kill you when I'm free. He says, well, the time for a guest is 3 days. You've been here for 3 days. You can leave now. So the whole time you're not here as a prisoner, you can go. So that's when he turns around and says, I hated Mecca because you were from Mecca. And I hated Banu Hashim because you're from Banu Hashim. Now he said, I love you, and then he declares his Islam. And then because he controls all the, we call them in Arabic the hab, all the produce that comes in, like the seeds, the wheat, and all this stuff that comes.
All the agricultural produce.
Comes into Arabia. He's in control of it. So he says, Ya Rasulullah, I'm going to cut it off the mushrikeen. Because he had to cut it off the Muslims. And the Prophet says, no, that's not how we work. So this man, just from clemency, turns back to Islam. Some might work, as I mentioned before, with ignoring them. But some don't work with good word. They don't work with money. They don't work with clemency. They don't work with ignoring them. And that, like, for one example is Israel. Israel, for example, they don't work with anything. They only work with force. The only thing that keeps them at bay, and that's that. If you take a look at all the countries that were subservient to Israel, they're still Israel's slave up to now. But the only countries that have been able to honestly, the only ones that have been able to force Israel back are the ones that have met them with force.
And they've retained their autonomy.
That's right.
Mostly.
This is what I'm trying to say. So some people, it doesn't work with them. So a good word doesn't work with the Israeli. The Zionists, it doesn't work with them. You know what I mean? Money, they've got the money. They control the banks. All right? Clemency, you've seen how good the Muslims have been in general with them. Anywhere that they've dealt with them very. I'm talking about the Muslims are the ones that I'm talking about, the ones that believe in Ahlul Bayt. The other ones that the Wahhabis, for example, they're used to just decapitating people as part of their everyday life. But that's what I'm saying. So they've seen with all this, some people it doesn't work except force. So generally, there are different keys to different people, but sometimes that's what's your only alternative that's left. And the people that think it all works with being peaceful and harmony, that's not true. Because even there was a hadith for the Prophet, if I can find it, it's I wrote it down, but it's a beautiful hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "لولا أني أكره أن يقال إن محمدا استعان بقوم حتى إذا ظفر بعدوه قتلهم لضربت أعناق قوم كثير." He said, had I not disliked, it'd been wrong for people to say that the Prophet Muhammad sought the help of people to overcome his enemy and then kill his enemy because he used to free them. He said, I would have struck a lot of necks. So in other words, that's not the method. You can just start killing everyone. It doesn't work. Why? Because, look, I'll tell you, realistically, if you want to rule, the most successful way to rule and I'm talking about, to be able to be in control, has been force. And that's how people see it.
It's the easiest way to do it. I mean, if you're more mighty than somebody else, you'll exert the force.
But this is not what you want to be done to you, number one.
Exactly.
Number two, that's not what you're here for.
Yep.
So if Imam Ali alayhi salam was here for that, the caliphate would never have been usurped.
Everything would have
They
been
would have
different.
known who the hypocrites were
of
from the
course.
right. Right from the start, all the hypocrites would have been killed off.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have had this problem. Everyone would have, like, that's how Imam al-Mahdi, Ajullah Farajul Sharif, is going to rule. Because the hypocrites are going to be known. There's going to be no one that's going to be in a position. Like all see now, when we say different names of different people, say this person, rahmatullah, as far as we're concerned, they're good. That's what we know. And we have people vouching for them. But we don't know. In reality, on the Day of Judgment, you only know about yourself.
That's right.
You don't know about anyone else. Because someone was asking me about Salat al-Mayyit.
Yep.
They said, they told me if you had to pray Salat al-Mayyit on an evil person, say a drug dealer, a criminal. I told him I usually avoid it unless someone else do it. If I have to, I really avoid it. He said, but what if you were put in a position where you had to do Salat al-Mayyit? And I know this person's evil. I said, well, you would say, Allahumma inna la na'lamu minhu illa khayra. We only know good about this person. I know you had to do this. And then for today, I said I want to research why we have to do this. And it turns out like this is one of the fuqahas saying that khayra means Islam, that we know of him as a Muslim. Doesn't mean this person's a good person. We know, as far as we're concerned.
He claimed to be Muslim, and how can you question whether he is or isn't?
He's a Muslim. He was selling rocks, and that's his business. You know what I mean? But as far as I'm concerned, he's a Muslim, and I've got to do this prayer for them. Otherwise, if I was to sit there and judge everybody, I don't know.
But Sheikh, it's also not your or my position to judge this person.
That's right. So if Imam Ali alayhi salam says, he says, oh man, he says, Ya Nas, he goes, Ayyuhan Nas, I think it was, Inni a'lamu, I'm paraphrasing, that's not the actual hadith. But he says, I know what your illness is, and I know what your cure is. He said, but far from it, hayhat, that I will cure you while I destroy myself. In other words, what he's talking about, that's all that works. Generally, because you look at it like fear always puts people in place.
Oh, for sure, but
but that's what we're getting to. We're not talking about what. We're not talking about what will put them in place. We're talking about how do I deal with them.
That's right. So that leads me to ask you, with the background that you've given so far, how do you know which method to use with which person in which situation? I mean, it gets fairly complicated then, doesn't it? I mean, you can show goodness without a response.
It depends on who I'm talking about. If you're going to talk about where does this person affect me in my life? If this person's like, for example, like say it's a prime minister, I'll never deal with the prime minister. When's the last time you dealt? When was the last time the prime minister like sent you a letter or called you, and you never deal with them?
Well, I'm sure he's got my address, but I've never heard from him.
Anyone can get your address. I mean, when's the last time he contacted you? You live under every head of government in the same way.
That's right.
They have no bearing on your life. So there's someone I'm not dealing with. I never look at people collectively. See, when I look, for example, in Australia, we have systematic racism, like in the United States. However, I know the system's like that. I'm not going to pick out the Derek Chauvin and throw him in prison. You know, it's Derek Chauvin's part of a system. Okay, he's just another pawn in the whole system. And likewise, all these peons that act as they act on a system. So I can't say I don't look at it as a monolithic, as one person. Like, oh, I've got a problem with all of them. No. I still have to treat them
as individuals.
And treat each person based on that. So
in the same way that Imam Hussain in Karbala treated every opponent as an individual. The biggest case in point being Hur ibn Riyai, where he didn't look at him as the army who stopped him. He looked at him as the individual, and in the discussion he appealed to him as the individual. Sorry, not appealed is probably the wrong way to put it, but he discussed with him as the individual.
Well, here's another thing as well. If you look at a dialogue between the Imam and the soldiers, then the dialogue of the Imam with the leaders. You look at the way Imam Hassan and Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhima spoke to Muawiyah. They spoke to him like the stuff you scrape off the bottom of your shoe.
Wow.
Had no respect towards him.
Yeah.
For example, when the Imam said to him, he said to Muawiyah, said, I am better than you. When the Imam responded in the letter, he said, وَأَنَا لَا أَقُولُ أَنِّي خَيْرٌ مِنْ. Imam said, I don't say I'm better than you. لِأَنَّهُ لَا خَيْرَ فِيك. Because there's no good in you. There's no way for me to even compare you. Like, and the way they would talk to them was in that manner.
Yeah.
They had no respect to them. But to the minions.
But at the same time, they didn't show disrespect.
No,
to
but you don't give, I'll tell you, you don't give anyone reverence that is not worthy of reverence.
Yeah, exactly. But
no, they don't swear to them as if
that's
you're
my
son
point.
of a
Yes,
so-and-so.
exactly.
No,
Yes,
but
yes.
they did. Like, for example, when Imam Hussein called Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, he said, Da'i ibn Da'i. And he was saying the illegitimate child of an illegitimate child.
Yeah.
That's what more do you want? Like, he's actually saying truths, but he attacks who like this? The leader of the organization, the leader, the major criminal.
Yeah.
Because the rest, I still have a chance with them. But this guy's set. So that's why I'm saying, who am I dealing with? So, for example, I'm dealing with people at work. I've got to be in the focus that I'm at work. I'm dealing what's got to do with work. The best thing is minimize what you say.
Yeah.
Secondly, don't make any deadlines you don't need to make or any threats. Like with your children, if you do this, I'm kicking you out of the house. You've already failed there.
Yeah.
Because you're not kicking them out of the house.
Yeah.
So don't make a threat you're not going to do.
Yeah.
And then people say, no, if I do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to because it's stupid if you do.
Yeah.
There is a point where...
It's a lose-lose situation.
It's a lose your child.
Yeah.
It's lose.
Yeah.
So when I need to make a threat, it's like one of the best ones is, if you do this, you're not going to be very happy. That's it.
Whatever that entails,
Whatever
let it be,
is,
right?
it is. However, does discipline play a role? Of course.
Yeah.
You know, just like you need to put manure on the plants,
Yep.
discipline does play a role.
Yep.
But is discipline the only thing? No. Generally, a good word is better.
Yep.
You know, if a child says to a parent, look, I don't love you,
Yep.
the parent shouldn't say, I don't love you. The parent should say, but I love you.
Yeah. I
And
still
then the
love
child
you.
will turn around and say, you know what, I love you too. You know, because it'll be, I hate you, no, I hate you. Why should? Because the child's an individual.
Yeah,
you know
you don't want to foster a relationship that the child feels as though they're not loved, because then you'll never get their love, or they'll never get the opportunity to experience.
But
that
also,
love for
you don't want to be their footstool. You don't want to be the doormat.
Of
for
course,
the child.
yeah.
You don't want
You're
the
an
child to be-
enabler for all the wrong things that they do.
Yeah, like, you know, if something's not right,
Yeah.
they've got to understand that that's not right. But we're talking about how do I deal with a different individual in a
That's
different
right.
case.
That's
okay.
right, yeah.
Now, sometimes I have to get rid of something by some kind of bribe. When I say a bribe, I don't mean the word is in bribe. Like,
Yeah.
I mean as a gift or gratuity where I give. For example, I was once traveling and there was this kid where I used to go and stay. He'd always knock off things from everybody. And people used to always ask, like, how do you control this kid? Every year I'd go, he'd never take a thing off me. I said, simple. I came up to him and I said, listen, you know, I heard that there's someone stealing things.
Yeah.
And I need someone to be the security for my things.
Yep.
And he said, where's your stuff? I said, in this where I'm staying.
Yep.
And he said, okay. I said, I'll give you X amount of money every day just to make sure no one steals from my things.
Yep.
And he said, I'll look after them. And I used to pay him. One day, I think there was 2 days where I didn't pay him. And he said, aren't you meant to be religious? And I said, why? He said, then you should say the truth.
Yeah.
And I said, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
He said, you haven't paid me, it's been 2 days.
Yep.
So he remembered, I was giving him like something equivalent to $1 a day.
Yeah.
But my stuff was safe.
Yep. Yep.
Do you understand what I mean? My stuff was safe. He wasn't
Cheap
knocking them off.
insurance. Yeah.
Cheap insurance. So sometimes you pay like that. You see a group of what's it called? misfits in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And if I can sort them out like that, I sort them out.
Well, exactly, and they get in the habit of doing the right thing, and hopefully that habit takes over, and they're not relying on that little gratuity that you're giving them.
That's right. But the thing is, sometimes that's how I work things.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how things are done in order in society to roll. That's the way the world is.
Yeah.
And some, like with you, like for example, if I'm a child and I get a reward for doing something, like you said, I start enjoying doing this, you know.
Yeah.
And sometimes if I'm given a good word, you know, like when you tell your child, look, you're a failure, you're never going to get anywhere in life, they're going to be a failure.
Oh, for
You're
sure,
never gonna
because you
get
put that in
anywhere
their
in life.
head. My parents think I'm a failure. The highest, the most revered is probably not the right word, but the highest status people in my life who I interact with all the time think I'm nothing and I will be nothing. That's pretty much sealed by fate, isn't it?
It does have some people it doesn't affect them at all. Some people you talk like that, they're thick-skinned. But it depends on the individual. Some people actually encourages them to do better.
Yeah.
So I've got to know who I'm talking to.
Exactly, you've got to
Because
know
the
your
problem,
kid.
like
Yeah.
the problem with today,
Yeah.
the world we live in is so soft.
Yeah.
They get offended by anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? You wouldn't have enough to fire a bullet if you go to war against people today.
You just tell him he's wearing his uniform wrong, it looks bad
that's
on
it.
him or
You
something
know,
like that.
So I walked, I was actually getting a coffee from a cafe today.
Yep.
And this guy walked in and his hair was blue and green. And the woman on the counter, she said, oh, your hair looks lovely. And I was thinking, that looks disgusting, his hair. Why would she say that? Why would you lie outwardly like his hair looked terrible, it just looked terrible. And she looked like her normally, but he's the customer, and the customer's always right.
Well, yeah,
See,
if
that's
you want the
why
guy to
this-
come back and bring his friends and spend
That's
money on your
right.
shopping.
They don't want it. She's being polite.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I wouldn't have went to say his hair looks lovely,
Yeah.
but you said something else.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you obviously probably did the hair like that so someone could pay
Make comments,
attention.
yeah, it's,
So,
there's a...
But there was nothing nice about it. I'll tell you now, the hair just looked terrible. It was like, you know, when you try and mix, you're trying to make green paint. You know,
Yeah.
you mix blue and yellow. It was mixed blue and yellow,
Oh,
and
God.
it wasn't fully green yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So it depends on every situation. You've got to deal with the situation accordingly.
Sure.
But always kindness and politeness comes first.
Yeah,
paramount.
without that, I mean...
You feel good about yourself.
Well, exactly, and that's really important. When the Holy Prophet of Islam began his prophetic mission, he didn't start by saying, you're doing all the wrong things and I'm going to show you the right way and you've got to do it my way. He welcomed them with humility and kindness and all of those factors. He invited people to his table to eat with him, to his sufra to eat with him, and showed them his character before he did anything else. And through that way invited them
He lived 40 years with them.
Yeah.
I actually was telling my son this. I said, imagine what type of a person he was if they nicknamed him as the honest, the Sadiq al-Amin, honest and trustworthy.
Yeah.
That was his nickname.
Yeah.
I said, it was usually a moniker's given, like I said, generally in a negative way. They called him the honest and the trustworthy.
Yeah.
That was his moniker.
Yeah.
That they knew this person was someone you could always trust.
Yeah.
Person would never lie. So he lived with them for that many years in order, and that's why the faith was propagated. And this is what makes the faith spread, when people actually read about the real character of the Prophet.
Yeah.
Like when he was talking about the Quran. See, as long as they don't fall into the cesspool of Bukhari and all the other people that have read, they're the ones that have narrated the worst narrations about the Prophet, and see the worst and the vilest character that comes in there.
Well, it's all untruths about the Prophet.
That's right. But I'm saying they're all untruths. But the thing is, if someone doesn't walk into this minefield, they still, a lot of the people that come to Islam, at first they come to Islam through the Quran, and they see good traits. But when they start to read, the good thing about that, then they want to salvage the religion, and they find Ali ibn Abi Talib. Find Ali ibn Abi Talib, then they're safe. Then they understand who the Prophet really was. You know, but if they don't, that's why you find out some people, when they leave Islam, they become enemies of the religion. And the whole time you ask them why, and they're like Salman Rushdie. They have books like Satanic Verses, which is based on the fabricated
all of
hadith.
Exactly, the fabricated hadith, yeah. Sheikh, there's a few other questions and points. Let's, if we, with your permission, let's move on from there. And the discussion in the background has been fantastic. And again, just a reminder that if you have any questions that you'd like to ask or any comments you'd like to share, please do put them on YouTube or Facebook or even the IHIC WhatsApp, and inshallah we will get to your comments. We have some here already. Sheikh, is there a relationship that takes priority, more priority or higher priority than any other relationship?
If we want to rank them in order,
Yeah.
the number one relationship, and because I want to talk about people, but your number one relationship is firstly with God.
Yep.
With God means your relationship with the Prophet,
Yes.
your relationship with the Ahlul Bayt. But I said, we'll put those aside.
Sure.
Inshallah,
Yes.
we'll talk about them next week.
Inshallah, yeah.
Then we talk about the people you deal with.
Yeah.
Some people, their friends will call them and say, listen, we're moving house. And they'll say, yes, helping a brother is good. And they'll go help move house. Mum will say, can you hang the clothes on the washing line? Why do you ask me? Why don't you ask my sister? Or,
It's not
or why
my
don't you
job.
ask my brother?
It's not my job.
It's not my job. See, what they think doing good with an outsider is better. There's not even, I don't think anything holds. And I've always wanted to talk just a whole subject on this,
Yeah.
dealing with family. That people actually know the value of dealing with their family. It's a whole nother world. So if I was to put them in order,
Yeah.
there is the human being in general. Then there is your fraternity in Islam, your brothers and sisters in Islam.
Yeah.
And then there is your blood family.
Yeah.
Then there is your immediate family. And within the immediate family is your parents, your spouse, and your children. The highest out of all these are the parents.
Yep.
Nothing comes close. So many people fail to understand when we tell them the position of a parent. And that is so unfortunate. And when I say so unfortunate, if they want to know how to live a happy life, be good to your parents. I will tell you.
It's not always easy though, Sheikh. I mean,
It's not always
we
easy.
can say, you know,
No.
in the ideal situation, inshallah, your parents are
It's- of
fantastic.
course.
You have great parents. There are some people who don't have that opportunity. They don't have that chance. They have very challenging relationships, whether
That's
it's with their
right.
siblings, their parents. Their,
That's right. So this is where we break up. But generally, like I know people with really bad parents,
Yeah.
but they're really good to them.
Yep.
Then I know of people that got angelic parents, but they're
And
not
they're
good.
terrible children.
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
So let's take a look. If my parents are God-fearing and they're righteous, and when I especially have to be good with them,
Yeah.
especially,
Yeah.
although I have to be good with all parents. Now, what is the effect of this for me? It's what's going to give me all my blessings in life.
Yep.
So ultimately it returns to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So dealing with my family, dealing with my parents and their status, we're talking about generally the hadith and everything talks about being good to your parents. The point you brought up is very important. Sometimes I have bad parents.
Yeah.
Like I had people that will contact me and tell me their parents are abusive. And I don't want to get into the detail of the abuse.
Sure.
What do I do there? How do I deal with it? If the abuse with them is constant, I have to cut them off. And what I'm talking about depends on the level of abuse.
Yes.
Where I have to cut them off. I can't because they're dealing with me, and like I mentioned,
Yeah.
it depends on what it is. So it's subject to the people I can't deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's say it was something in the past. How do I deal with them now? Because they're still my parent.
They are. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe if I see them, I remember this. Some relationship could be on the phone. Hi, how are you? And I want them dead for what they did to me. God, no, I'm just talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
Because there's specific cases.
Yeah.
When I talk about abuse, I'm talking about the worst possible
Sure,
abuse.
sure.
You know, I don't want to go into details because it's horrific to even think about it. Now, say my parents would beat me, for example. For me, it depends on what kind of beating.
Yeah.
It's if they were disciplinarians, but they were super disciplinarians.
Yeah, taking you to an extreme.
I'd still have a very strong relationship with them.
Yeah.
It depends, like I said, if my parents were threatening me with knives and cutting me and stuff, it's different to, you know, if, like one guy used to tell me, it was actually fascinating. I travelled with this guy to the Hajj once, many, many years ago. And he would know the Quran really well. And I said, you read the Quran very well. Didn't you tell me your parents were religious? He said, yeah, my father was one of those weed drunks. He'd get drunk.
Oh, God.
He said, and he'd come home and teach me the Quran. It's the first time I've ever heard of something like this, you know? Like, he said he wasn't one of those dads that come home and beat on you. He'd get drunk and he'd teach me the Quran when he was drunk.
Wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and recite this surah.
Yeah, that's what he told me. So, you know what I mean? So, everyone has a unique relationship with their parents.
Yeah.
And we're talking about what's the outset, what's the default.
Yeah.
The default is to be good to your parents.
Yeah.
There are situations.
Because in a way, that's your test.
That's your test.
Test for you anyway. That despite what bad things this person might have done to you, for whatever reason, and the reason isn't the point at the moment.
Yeah.
How you respond to that is testament to your character and your faith and your belief and so on and so on and so on.
Mm. Well, that's right. Because your test not always going to be it's not designed by you.
Yeah.
It's whatever's thrown at you.
Yeah.
Whatever test has been thrown in your direction. If you are relying on God and you turn to God, Allah will always give you a road through. But it's a test. At the end of the day, it's not going to be... The biggest problem is people see the dunya as if it's a permanent abode. That's why everyone fails with this. Because they sit there and go, oh, my life is terrible. And you say, oh, as opposed to who?
Yeah.
Who has a good life?
Yeah.
And they say, what do you mean? I said, who has a good life? So I could be, right now, I could be living like I have the wealth of Jeff Bezos, for example.
Sure.
And I have my own island and I have servants and everything I ever wanted.
Sure.
Okay? I'm still going to have in my head that I'm going to die. How could you live comfortably knowing you're going to die? And anything can kill you.
Well, we're kind of heading on a segue here.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
But,
that's what I'm saying. So from there,
yeah.
You're suffering there. Other than that, I suffer because other people are suffering.
Yeah.
Because when I hear, honestly, how comfortable are you when you know what's happening in Yemen or you know it's... So everyone suffers in a different way.
Sure.
I know it's a segue,
yeah.
But the thing is, your parents is a trial. The way what you get as a parent, that's a trial.
Yeah.
Most people have good parents.
Yep.
That's true. Most people have good parents. It's the anomalies that you hear about that the parents are evil towards a child.
Yeah.
Even with a bad, if you notice, even criminals, a lot of mobsters, they don't want their kids to follow in their footsteps.
That's right. And quite often these mobsters also have pretty good parents too. And they have a high regard for their parents, saying, no, if my mom finds out, I'm in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
What'll my mom think if this is happening? Which actually brings me to a point that in the levels of relationship that you mentioned a few moments back, you put the parents at the top, right? And rightly so. But even in the parental relationship, there's one of your parents has a higher position than the other.
That's right. And the reason that is, one of the main reasons, is in every relationship, that gender is secondary. If you take a look as a child, she's a daughter. She doesn't have the same freedoms as a son.
Culturally and...
No, but I'm talking about, for example, not only culturally, we're talking about, in general, the female's confined to her job. As for going out, like she can't go to the beach.
Oh, yeah, and the local swimming pool.
She needs somewhere where there's private for her to dress.
In that perspective, yes, I agree with you on that.
As a as a, what's it called, as a wife.
Yeah.
The husband is the head of the household.
Yeah.
Okay. As a parent, this is where she's the queen.
Yeah.
She's in charge.
Yeah.
She's in charge so much so that the Prophet emphasizes when the man says, who has asked the Prophet, who has a right upon me, says your mother, then he says, then who, then he says your mother.
Yeah.
3 times before he mentions the
father.
father.
Yeah.
Even to the point where a man says, Ya Rasulullah, that he wants to expiate for a sin.
Yeah.
And then he says to him, go be good. He just says, do you have a parent that's alive?
Yeah.
He said, yes, my father is alive. He says, go good, do good for your father. And when the man leaves, he looks at his companions, he says, only if his mother was alive.
Yeah.
You know, so you have that emphasis about treating your mother, even to the point your mother's sisters. There's a massive emphasis on them.
Really? That
on
one
the
also I
khala.
wasn't aware of.
On the khala, the Prophet says to a companion, this is
Yeah.
where we learn it from.
Yeah.
The Prophet says, is your mother alive? The man says, no. He says, is your mother's sister alive? He says, then go. He says, because your mother's sister is like your mother.
Wow.
Why? There is a reason behind all this. The rights of, if you want to look at, and why I said, we're not only talking about culturally, you're talking about the world you live in today. The woman's always perceived as a second figure.
Yep.
And even today, this world that says that women, this world that says that they've liberated women, let's take a look at celebrities. They turn up, the men are always suited up,
Yeah.
up to their wrists,
Yep.
and the woman has to be half naked on the red carpet.
Yeah.
She doesn't have that.
But
No, because
one-
the man is always he just needs the papillon, the bow tie.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
And that's it. That's all he needs for a party or a gathering or an outing. But the woman, she has to spend a lot of money on everything she has. Otherwise, she's not going to be accepted. When have you ever looked at a television show where they put a superhero? They don't really care. Like, for example, when they're putting could you imagine like Wonder Woman? If they want to put a Wonder Woman, they just put an average-looking Jane. They'd never do that.
Or one that's fully clothed like Spider-Man,
Yeah,
an equivalent suit like Spider-Man or something,
Yeah,
for
that's right.
example.
They won't do
And you, I hear in the wind that you like to play a lot of computer games and things. But my point is this, Sheikh, if you look at female characters in a computer game versus male characters, and look at the dress between the two of them. When a male puts on armor, he's fully covered in armor, and when a female character puts on armor,
right.
it's
Look,
very much the opposite.
That was a rumor made by Hajj Abbas. I'm not a gamer. I actually like sport, but I'm not a gamer. But I understand gaming.
Yeah.
Because I have to deal with youth.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is true. Even if you look at the skins that they're making,
Yeah.
Fortnite, the men's skins are all covered.
Yeah.
The women, they have to be as provocative as possible. So what I'm saying, the status of women has always been treated in this way, whereas the Prophet shows the status there.
Yeah.
The mother, as a wife, she has to be obedient to her husband.
Yeah.
That's her position. So as a mother,
Yeah.
the child has to be obedient to the mother. They have to be good to the mother. They have to be pleasant to the mother. They have to treat her in the best possible way. I remember when we were kids, my father used to say, Allah yarhamu, may Allah have mercy on your deceased. He would say to us, he said, who do you like more? Or who would you stand with? And once I was sitting down, I said, Mum. And he said, that's what I want you to say. And he would really emphasize, he said, if your mother and I were to split apart, you always go on your mother's side. He'd always tell us that.
Wow.
And the reason he would emphasize, because religion's paramount.
Yeah.
Man can always land on his feet.
Yeah.
The worst thing's for a man to show he's weak when a relationship breaks. He can always land on his feet. The woman's the one that needs that support, and that support's given by Allah Azza wa Jal. I know you might get people that tell me, oh no, we're all the same. You're not the same.
Yeah.
We'll go back to the Serena and Venus Williams thing, when they said we can beat anyone outside the 200.
Yeah.
And a guy in 203rd position said, I'll play yous.
Yeah.
Smashed them. Then they said, all right, outside 350. And he said to them, not even outside 500.
Yep.
Why? It's not because that's just your makeup. You can't change the way God's made you, and who is more deficient.
See, on that point, Sheikh, just sorry to cut you off there. On
Physically, I'm talking about, not deficient as an individual. No,
no, not at all. Not at all.
And I'm not saying this. I don't.
It's just the same as a man can't carry a child. Right?
That's right.
My
can't
parents
multi-skill the whole.
That's right. Well, I don't know. For myself, my wife tells me quite clearly that I definitely can't multi-skill.
No, men can't multi-skill
Yeah,
at all.
it's enough that I can talk and breathe at the same time.
Yeah.
My parents, I remember when, I think I was in primary school and I had a debate. We did debating and stuff in school, as I'm sure many kids have done. There was one where we had to talk about equality and whatnot, and between men and women in the society, and I'm talking about years and years and years ago. And my parents said something that has stuck with me throughout. There is equality, not uniformity. That you're equal. You're equal in the eyes of God. You're equal in society. You're equal in the law. But you're not uniform. You're not identical. I do not have the features of a woman, and a woman does not have the features of a male.
Yeah.
And that's what makes you equal, but not uniform.
And we're different.
And we're different.
That's like you said. It's like once someone said about two athletes. He said if this athlete had the work rate of that athlete, he'd be the best fighter in the world.
Yeah.
And he said about the other one, if the other one had the natural gift
and the talent,
he'd be the best, because he has that work rate.
Yeah.
If a man and a woman, their powers were to combine as one, that would conquer the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So each one, they complement each other.
That's right.
And this is where you come to the next relationship, the relationship between a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
And how a relationship between, when we go in our relationship, why can't it be like the honeymoon stage always?
Yeah.
You know how in the honeymoon stage when people are firstly married, they overlook everything. They got little lovely nicknames for each other. Buttercup or whatever they're calling each other, God knows. And they're always very pleasant to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why can't they be like this at a very old age? Why can't they? Why is it we get to the point where it becomes a platonic relationship? Yeah. Why is it always every time? Why are you always nagging? Or why are you always complaining? Why do I always look at the other person as
negatively? Yeah.
When if you actually sit back and you should say, why am I always angry? Why am I always nitpicking? Why am I always picking on people? Why? When you start looking at yourself, you go, God. Like if you look at Sheikh al-Naraki, rahmatullah alayh, the author of Jama' Sa'adat, one of the things that, because us Arabs, one thing we have is a bad temper, a lot of us. This is a stereotype, but we do.
Hot-blooded, I hear.
Hot-blooded. Well, the thing is, he says one of the signs of takabbur or pride, or being I can't see that, it's behind the camera, or being self-conceited. He says is getting angry at someone, like letting out your anger. He says, why? Because when for example, when a wife snaps at a husband snaps at his wife. Because today, that's the way it is. Back in the old days, it was always the man that was the one. Now they both shout at each other. What it is, it's a manifestation of pride. It's like saying, I'm better than you, and you're no good.
Well, isn't that...
if I turn around and the audacity, if I tell my wife, I'm angry because you always make me angry.
Well, that's an abusive relationship right there, but anyway.
Hold on, what do you mean? What do you mean she makes you angry?
Yeah.
You choose to get angry.
That's right.
And they say, no, she pushes me over the edge. Brother, why do you think, for example, the dua of a man on his wife is not acceptable? But the dua of a wife on a husband is. Why? Why, if a man says 1,000,000 du'as against his wife, why aren't they acceptable?
Yeah.
Because divorce is in his hand.
Yeah.
So he can end it there. If she's really that bad, and something I always tell people, when you're really upset with your spouse, sit back when you come and think about how life would be without them. Really, I'm not talking about like the jokes men have against women, women have against men.
Yeah.
Not you know, when we're joking with our mates, or you know, when people say, oh, females like this, or females together say males like this. No, these are jokes. We're talking about seriously. Imagine tomorrow, anyone, that your spouse wasn't there. You know, a lot of people are going to be laughing.
Yeah, think,
and saying to
whoa, you know,
themselves,
the happy days and whatnot.
Really.
No, it's not.
Your spouse is not there anymore. They're gone. I'll make it even better. They're not dead. They're
just
married
gone.
to somebody else. And that person's enjoying what you were enjoying with them. Did you handle that? This is the thing people got to look at. And if you honestly think it's paradise without them, and your life will be awesome, and I'm talking about truly when you're talking to yourself, then, you know, I don't know if you should be there any longer.
That's right. But on what you just said about the dua that the wife makes versus what a husband makes, and if you imagine your life without your wife, for example, for men, if you imagine your life without your wife, then try to imagine your life without the dua that she's doing for you, that's being accepted, that put you where you are, for example.
Well, do you know something one of the other sheikhs told me in Australia? He said to me, whoever wants to get married will get married, and whoever wants to get divorced will get divorced. And I fully believe in that. Someone really wants to get divorced, they would have got divorced a long time ago. Why are they still there?
That's right, because it fulfills some sort of need that they have.
That's right.
Something.
Or they'll tell you, oh, the kids, no, kids are an excuse. Everything's an excuse. You're still there because there's something in it.
That's right.
There was nothing in it whatsoever, you would have left. Because we leave everything. If you imagine you're in a job, and you just go there and you drudge all day. You're labouring and they pay you peanuts. And you can't make ends meet with what they pay. You don't stay there.
That's right. You look for something better.
You go look for another job.
The first opportunity you get, you're out.
So the reason we're there, we've got to remember that, is so that comes with our spouse. As for like the remainder of our family, I always like, especially now when we get out of the lockdown, we've got to visit each other, see how everyone is. You know, 16 million people were in Karbala. You know, I think that everyone's starting to develop how to live with the virus. You know, like there is a virus, but you know the scaremongering and all that I think was overdone. You know, it was very. There is a virus. There was an illness.
Well, we've gone from COVID-0 to let's live with this thing. So,
that's right.
But that's a whole other.
Yeah, that's another discussion. But what I'm saying is that we have to endeavour to build up relationships because they've made you used to living on your own. Actually, I'm accustomed to lockdown, and other people are. They're telling you, this is good, it's normal. Well,
sadly, I've kind of become accustomed to nobody coming over to my house and me not going over to. For example, even though my parents, I'm lucky to have my parents here in Sydney. Unfortunately, unfortunately for those who don't have that opportunity, and even though we live on either side of the major road in our area, their area is a lockdown suburb and mine is not. And even then, we've gone weeks without seeing each other, right?
You're just saying this on...
I'm not trying to win brownie points or anything.
No, I'm just saying, you're just saying this that you haven't been there.
No, I'm dead serious.
Oh, all right.
I'm dead serious. And when I tell somebody that's the response that I get. Oh, you're just saying that. No, really, I haven't seen them in weeks. Anyway, that's not the point. And I missed that opportunity, right? And then there are people who really haven't changed their lifestyle much at all, and so nothing will really change for them except that they go from undercover to being out in the open.
Yeah, there are people that still been going out.
Yeah,
that's normal. That's the.
It's very hard for a human being. It's very hard to stop.
It's very hard to stop. Stop. You know, we're very social. It's hard to stop it.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. We are. But Sheikh, 2 questions. First, hopefully, if you can, in a nutshell, if you can answer that one, and then a subsequent question which I'll ask. Your advice, based on this discussion, your advice for a husband and wife to have to establish and maintain a happy and healthy relationship for those who haven't had children, and then for also those who have had children?
Number one, the point I mentioned, imagine what life would be without them. That's the first thing. Secondly, you know how you compete with other people? You know how I fight with other people at school?
Yep.
I compete with other people at work.
Yep.
I compete with other people with finance. I compete in everything we compete. Believers should compete against each other in worship.
Yeah.
That's why, when you're in when people tell me they're in Rauda, when we're in Medina, they say, I prayed a little bit, but I gave someone else my space. I go, I would never give it to them. You don't give it to anyone. It's who's there is there.
Yeah.
Because this is religion.
Yeah.
It's you got to fight to get this.
Yeah.
Like, although even with like prayer Jamal, I tell people get to the front. But obviously you give respect to your elders. You always let your elders go first.
Yeah.
But if you're one of the elders, you should begin the front line. Don't let anyone else get it, and fight to get the front right. Now, this is the same in a relationship. You should be competing with your spouse to see who does better than the other, who loves more, and beat them, be better than them at this.
Yeah.
They get mad, you don't get mad.
Yeah.
They won't go get you, for example, a glass of water, you get them a glass of water.
Right.
You be the better one, because the whole thing, you're not working for this world.
Yeah.
This is what you always remember. You're working for the next
It's very
world.
hard, Sheikh. You go through 30, 40, 50 years of life and it's not that you think you're invincible or immortal, but you have all of that life behind you. That's all you know, even though God sends regular reminders to every person that your life will end.
Yeah, but this is what we're saying. This is where we will be. This is the reality of life. How am I going to have a good relationship? The communication plays a big role, but but you can't expect the other person to be perfect.
No, of course.
They're going to have their flaws.
You're not perfect. How can you expect that from somebody
That's
else?
right. So they're going to have their flaws. You're going to have your flaws. You each know each other pretty well.
Yeah.
How do I have a good relationship? I've got to compete with them and being good. I've got to think about what life would be without them. I've got to appreciate things. Appreciate the things they do. Like sometimes I'll be talking to somebody and he says, I said, all right, what are the good things in your spouse? For example, if I was talking to a brother or a sister, each one will tell you these are good, these are bad, but there's good traits. Unless someone comes along and says nothing.
Yeah.
There's no good. What about this? No. What about that? No. Nothing. That's different. If you have someone that's absolutely hopeless, and there's nothing else,
Why are you married?
what are you married for?
Yep.
Like there has to be some,
Yep.
But then again, they're not giving you the whole story.
No, there's
There's two sides to every story.
There's
One
three
you hear-
sides. There's your side, his side, her side, and the truth.
Yeah, so that's right. So that's for me to have a good relationship.
Yep.
I've got to be the one that instigates the stuff. There has to be genuine love in there, and I should be content with what I have.
Inshallah.
If I'm not content, like the thing is, I remember one guy when he was going to they were married. They were only married for several months, and then they were going to get divorced. And he put his foot down. That's it. It's over.
Yep.
So before he was about to divorce, I said, "Listen, I want to ask you one question." He said, "What's that?" I said, "Do you think if you leave her, you're going to find better than her?" And just that made him return. They're married with a lot of kids now. But the point is, that point played in his head.
Yep.
If I leave her,
It must have made him think.
of course, because
Reconsider
it's
exactly
like
what
when
he's
you're
got.
talking to a sister, and likewise, if I was to ask her, if you get divorced, are you going to find better than him? Are you certain about this? You're not. So is it that bad? If they say, listen, like the Iraqis were saying, we'll go with Satan and not Saddam. If you're at the point
They
you're
kind
married,
of got Satan, didn't they?
they did
when they were
And
liberated.
when they were occupied by somebody else.
Yeah.
But there's no liberation there. So when you look at it from there, if I looked at, I would rather be scolded, not scolded, with hot water,
With hot water,
than marry this person. Get out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If like when people tell you, listen, my stomach turns when they turn
At the
up.
thought of them,
The thought of them. or people
That's a very unhealthy relationship, right there.
I don't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, a lot of the times, sometimes you're like that because the shaitan is playing in your head too.
Yeah,
So I've got to be, have I tried this, have I tried that?
Yeah.
Overlooking things is very important. You've got to overlook stuff.
Yeah.
Look at the positive. There's no positives I'm talking about. No positives.
Yeah, sure.
I've got to find the
understand.
positives.
Sheikh, lastly, one piece of advice for inshallah soon when we are able to visit each other's homes socially in large numbers, return to the center, spend more time with all those people that we've missed and not seen over all of these months. One piece of advice for when we have that opportunity.
Okay, firstly, centers. Don't vacate centers.
Inshallah.
You might not get another chance to come to
Yeah.
a center. Yeah, I was talking to someone recently, a couple of days ago, and I said to him, the hardest thing about dying, I won't be able to listen to a majlis for Abu Abdullah Hussein again. I won't be here listening to a majlis. I won't be able to do latum again. I won't be able to cry. That's all going to go.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing about dying. You're not going to be here. Do you know how beautiful this is?
It's a barakah, isn't it? That you have that opportunity.
But you're sitting with people, the majority of people that come centers. We're not talking about everyone. There's, wherever God builds a house of prayer, the devil builds a chapel there. I know.
Yep.
The people that are there, the people that you know, they're your community,
Yep.
and you've grown up with them.
Yep.
And you grow up with every center has its own community, its own identity. And a center that this is what there were people, for example, here at Imam Hussein Islamic Center when Sheikh Mansour was here many years ago that left.
Yep.
Where do they go now? Sometimes you hear someone who says, I watch live.
Yeah.
But okay, this is the center that you were raised in.
Yep.
This is the center. The people are still there. And the Sheikh still gives lectures. You'll still get to see things. And you still get to see the environment you're in. And they got to realize they miss out.
Yeah.
You miss out.
And they're missing an opportunity to be
not
part of the
not only
community,
like
build the community.
I like to come and sit in the. This is the first thing. You got to come to a center.
Yes.
You got to actually sit in the center. It's different.
Yeah.
To actually
The feeling, the atmosphere.
Feel the atmosphere, enjoy it, and when you say there's not enough activities, good. Come and put an activity.
100%.
There's no one here. He's a board member. Come up to him, give him an activity. Hajj Ali's going to say, come do this. Come do this activity. Do it. Just you run it. We want you to help. We want you to get involved in the center. The center's yours.
Absolutely.
And you gotta come up with the ideas, and they'll be implemented.
Yeah, without the community, Sheikh, what's the point of having this wonderful building?
That's right. I've whenever anyone, probably one center I know prevents people from doing everything. I'm not going to mention it, but every other center I've dealt with, they're open for people to come in and do what they want with the center.
Please.
That's 90% of the centers, 95% of the centers.
Inshallah. Sheikhna, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic discussion, as always and again. And inshallah, next week we'll have part 2 of this discussion on relationships. And next week we'll steer the discussion more to something more religious and spiritual, inshallah. Not to say that this wasn't religious or spiritual, but something more along those lines, and to give you all some food for thought. And inshallah, you can share your questions and comments about this topic with us so that we can discuss it. Is that we'll look more at our relationship with God and more of a spiritual and perhaps more philosophical aspect to it next week, inshallah. So please do join us for that discussion. Reminder that daylight saving will start this weekend, so our program timings will change from next week as well. Tuesday night we have the Majlis for the Holy Prophet of Islam and Imam Hassan alayhi salam, and on Wednesday night we have a program for Imam Rada alayhi salam. Please stay with us while we go to Majlis for this evening. Thank you very much. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Yep. الثأر ثأرك يا ابن زمزم والصفا عجل فديتك وانتقم أفما كفى من فوق عرش الله يا مهدي ثار الصارخون يا ابن النبي اطلب بثأر المصطفى والبضعة الزهراء ثم وليها يا سنو النبي ومن بنصرته اكتفى واطلب بذاك التشت تشتا قد هواها يا كبد الإمام المجتبى رمز الوفاء واطلب بتشت فيه رأس قد تلا يا أي كتاب على الرماه ليعرفا لا في لراسك يا عزيز محمد لما يزيد بضربه قلبا شفاء وويلا our thoughts go to the head that was paraded from city to city. Wawayla, paraded through Sham, as no one knew who this head was for, as the captives of Karbala, وإن خرب of Sham, Sayyida Zainab, the Imam Zain al-Abidin and all the Yatama. What would happen? Yazid had a wife by the name of Hind who heard that they were captives in the dungeons. So she asked her guards. She wanted to see these prisoners. So she asked her guards to pick up her chair and put it at the door of the dungeons. Why? Because they did not sit on the floor. They would go to the dungeon and Hind would sit on the chair. The daughters of Rasulullah would all recognize Hind, but Hind did not recognize them. Hind would ask, from which city are you from? I am from, we are from Medina. Which Medina? The term Medina in Arabic, it means city. So she assumed that they were saying from a city. They would say, we are from the Medina of Rasulullah. She would get off her chair and sit on the floor. Sayyidah Zainab would say to her, why did you get off your chair? She would say, peace be upon those who are living in Medina. She would say, I have respect for those who live in Medina, so I would not sit on a chair. Then she would ask, I want to ask about a family that's dear to my heart, that they are in Medina. I want to ask about Hussein. I want to ask about the children of Ali. I want to ask about the children of Fatima. I want to ask about Zainab. She would say, if you are asking about Hussein, look between the hands of your husband, for he's holding the head of Hussein. And if you ask about Zainab, I am Zainab. She would stand up, begin to hit her head and say, Wa Imama, Wa Sayyidah. She would go to Yazid in the middle of his majlis, where all the men were present. Then Yazid would grab his cloak and throw it over her and say, what has made you enter the majlis? She would say, Ya Yazid, you are fearful over your women, but what about the daughters of Rasulullah? Ya Jadda, الناس تتفرج علينا، عمت عين اللي يصب العين لنا، يا عمت عين اللي يصب العين لنا، We would all like to raise our hand for dua. Ya Allah, 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 Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. We would like to ask on this night that God heals all our patients, accepts our du'as. Let's all recite 5 times Ayya Amma Yujib for all those in need. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. 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 اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة، وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. إلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
حسين الغريب الغريب الحسين شهيد الشهيد الشهيد الحسين.